All right, good morning and welcome to Section 8 Lessons. This is going to be volume number 6. Now, if you're new to the channel, you'll see that I've made 5 other videos. We've been going in a linear progression to learn more about Section 8 housing, low income housing, and so on. Today, we're going to address how to file a HUD complaint and fair housing violations along with tenant rights. Now, the video itself should be about 8, 10, possibly 12 or 14 minutes. I'm not going to keep it very long. Second thing is there might be 1 or 2 ads in here. You're welcome to watch those ads if you support the channel. And if you want to be notified when we do the next video, you can always subscribe. You don't have to, but you can. And you would want to turn on all notifications, and that would allow you to see the next volume. So let's get to the meat of the situation. So about 40, maybe 50% of my clients come to me. They are asking about or complaining about different issues they have with the landlord. They may be having issues with the housing authority in itself, and so you get a combination of both. It's important you understand that the housing authority in your city is owned by the county. It is not HUD. Okay, you guys often refer to as the housing authority as HUD. That's not HUD. HUD's in D.C. It has regional offices. It administers federal funds to the state. The state opens up a building, and then they call that the housing authority. And so it's a separate entity, okay? They're just receiving the federal funds. Beyond that, let's talk about housing discrimination laws and what you can do. Look, now I'm aware there are attorneys that do this. I am not an attorney, but I've spent 20 years in the industry as a consultant for Section 8, low-income housing, and many other factors. I do know my job, and I know it very well. On YouTube and Google, I rank #1 when it comes to these issues. So, with housing discrimination laws at all levels of government, federal, state, city, prohibit housing discrimination, and each set of laws has its own complaint processes and enforcement procedures. And so, a lot of you think that filing a report and so on is cookie cutter. This stuff changes city to city, state to state, county to county. So it's important that when you're investigating all of this, that you understand the intensity of the laws and what they're designed to do. Discrimination by a housing provider, for example, a landlord can violate a law more than at more than one government level. In fact, the victim of housing discrimination might be able to file a complaint at more than one level. And as I mentioned, this is all governed specifically by the Fair Housing Act, or FHA, which is the Federal Housing Administration. And so they prohibit issues in relation to race, color, religion, sex, disability, family status, national origin. Now, one thing I'm going to encourage you guys to take a look at real quick is I'm going to skip over here and I'm going to move this so you can take a look. So the main factor we're looking for in law is going to be Section 42, U.S. Code, Chapter 45, Fair Housing Law. Now, I understand we're jumping all over the map. There's a lot more to a lot of this stuff than you guys think. You think it's just simply filling out a form and you're done. No, it's not. So, let's get on to the rest. I'm going to start talking about more, and I've made notations for myself to read. It's a lot to talk about. So this bans discrimination, and it applies to renting and selling of nearly all types of property. Doesn't matter if you're in a mobile home or so on. And so there's only very limited exceptions, which it doesn't count. Discrimination by any number of people involving housing, such as landlords, property managers, mortgage lenders, violates the FHA. Some discriminatory acts, such as refusing to rent to people of a certain race, clearly violates the FHA, Federal Housing Administration. Other violations, less obvious, such as asking a potential tenant if she's pregnant or not, or is allowing a service animal, or has a no pet policy. Look, housing authority just got sued for not allowing cats. You cannot do that. Okay, and many states and counties, the number of people involved in housing, such as in many states and counties and cities have their own anti-discrimination laws, and at minimum, these laws prohibit the same types of discrimination, often as FHA does prescribe by law. They end up prohibiting even more categories than you might imagine. So, as an example, a housing voucher, military status, or having been in the military. So, what are you here for? We want to get deeper into this. So now we're going to talk about the actual filing part. So, if you're experiencing housing discrimination, you'd want to first determine the law or laws that are applicable to your situation. Now, this is where it gets sticky. Now, attorneys obviously go to school for the law. They know what they're doing. From my end, I've been doing it a long time. So the difference, I guess, between me and an attorney is they're probably a little bit more apprised of the law than I ever would be. But on the same token, you pay a tremendous amount of money, and most of you can't afford to do that, okay? So I'm going to suggest this for you guys. Research the information that I'm giving you. If you still can't, if you're still unable to understand the complexity of what you should be filing and how you should file it, I would say book a appointment or get with me as a consultant and see if I can help you with your case. If not, and it's too complex, then I would suggest, if you have the money to pay a lawyer $5, $10, or $15,000, go ahead and give them a call. So we're gonna move on. So if with experiencing housing discrimination, you'll first want to determine the laws that we were discussing here under that particular subchapter, and that's going to be Title 42, and Chapter 45 of Fair Housing. Now, determining which laws are applicable to the facts of your case isn't something you need to do on your own. Obviously, as I mentioned, you can hire a consultant like me. You can go out there and hire an attorney, or you can also call HUD. When they have the time and they answer the phones, they're usually pretty good resources. So the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has a list of federal fair housing resources, and I'm going to show you that real quick. So here, you can search this by database number. If you're wondering, guys, I'm giving you links in the description, and so you'll be able to look at all this stuff as I'm talking about it. So this will cover all 50 states, and then it tells you who you can call. Now remember that this is a multi-layer cake, so you're dealing with city, county, state ordinances, anti-discrimination law at the county, state, and at the federal level. So there's all kinds of stuff we could potentially file. Now, with that being said, I'm going to leave it there for y'all to look at that for a minute. If someone has a discrimination, so you can also talk to discrimination attorneys that specialize in this stuff. Of course, they also very much specialize in their costs. So anyways, if you decide to pursue a complaint under federal, state, and local law, the next step is to prepare to file a complaint, which I can help y'all guys with. Also, the secondary parts is doing the research to figure out state, local, city, and federal level where we should be aiming this filing at. So filing a federal fair housing complaint. So with that, you would want to come to the Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity, which is called FHEO. You can call FHEO directly or lodge a complaint or fill it out, and they accept forms online, email, and mail. Look, guys, you need to have a record of anything that you file. And one thing I'm going to tell you real quick is a lot of guys would prefer to tell a long story. Nobody cares about that. And the reason they don't care is you need to get to the factual point. So if you're going to say such and such discriminated, you need to back it up with law, short and brief, okay? And the other thing is, a lot of you, as I was saying, you're writing long stories. None of that stuff's relevant. You have to actually target specific things they've done. Then you back it up with law. Then you file a report. A lot of you are just filing 50,000 pages of every complaint you've ever had. Nobody, they don't care about that. What they care about is whether they've actually filed. So a lot of you need guidance when it comes to this stuff, because you're doing it completely wrong. It's just irrelevant. They're just going to throw it away. Anyways, victims can file the fair housing complaints at the HUD's Office, Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity, FHEO, as I had mentioned. And then after receiving the FHEO, the investigation, it usually takes around 100 days. It can take up to 100 days. They'll either dismiss the claim if they don't find enough evidence of discrimination. That's the point, guys. You're not preparing your case that's right with this. Or issue a charge of discrimination, which is a report stating discrimination might have occurred. For a step-by-step explanation of all this, that would obviously take about a 10-hour video, but I'm just going to say, as I mentioned before, we want to target specific laws that implement and enforce those particular laws under FHEO, which include the Fair Housing Act, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Section 109 of Housing and Community Development of Act of 1974, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Titles 2 and 3 of the American Disabilities Act of 1990, the Architectural Barriers Act of 1968, the Age Discrimination Act of 1975, Title 9 of the Education Amendments of 1972, Section 3 of the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968. Some of FEO's activities also include investigating fair housing complaints, conducting compliance reviews. Now, again, that's compliance reviews for housing authorities, and ensuring civil rights in HUD programs. lots of housing authorities are getting sued for non-compliance. Stepping off of that, we're going to be talking about filing at state and fair housing complaints, and I want to show you all a link. Bear with me a minute. Frankly, I thought I had this prepared. So I'm going to include this link. I can't show it to you right now. It'll be an actual filing, an OBM. And then the secondary factors we want to follow up with is going to be regional and field offices for FHEO. You sometimes want to make good direct contact with them. Then you have Fair Housing Initiative Programs, HIP organizations. These organizations participate in HUD's Fair Housing Initiative Program. You may be able to speak with a housing provider. They can conduct an investigation on your behalf, including testing and determine if you experience discrimination. Otherwise, provide you with information for assistance. And I'm going to, like I said, I've already provided that particular part there. Here's our complaint section here, and I'm going to including this in the information I'm going to be giving you guys. So we can also be talking about other HUD offices of the FHEO. So, equal access rule, violence against women, which is VAWA complaints. Complaints alleged, so you have a violation of HUD program regulations that prohibit discrimination based on orientation, gender identity, marital status, or alleged discrimination against VAWA, which is domestic violence, and so on. So now, once we get down, we separate federal, state law, county, and other anti-discrimination. Now we're going to end up having different departments that deal with different types of vouchers, and so you see how this can get very complicated quick. All right, so beyond that, then you have multi-housing complaints, complaints to the management of HUD insurance and HUD assisted properties, ensuring poor maintenance, dangerous health and safety management, and also fraud. Should be reported to 800-685-8470. Housing choice voucher complaints and others should be done at 800-955-2232. If you've determined you can make a complaint on state level, you first need to figure out, and I've already mentioned this, is what agencies you need to deal with. And just to make this clear, every state and city has a different name in which it can go by. For instance, in Texas, it's Texas Workforce Commission. And it can change from every city and county, which makes it hard to search on Google to figure out who is managing what. Beyond all that, usually county cities do enforce local fair housing law. For instance, in Arlington County in Virginia, a housing division enforces the county's anti-discrimination ordinance. In Seattle, Washington offers a good example how major cities enforce fair housing law. It has an office for civil rights that accepts complaints. So it's all over the place. It's not simply just calling HUD in D.C. or calling the local state office. It's a tremendous wealth of things that you have to consider. And in addition to that, so I don't want this video to go super long. I'm going to check the time real quick. So we're at 13 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and close it out. So I've given you some, and you can look through the description to see some of the links to do some of this. It's a tremendous amount of research. If you're not able to do this, you don't want to have, the next month or two of your life consumed by research and laws, you're welcome to hire me as a consultant. My links are in the video as well as the comments. If you have a highly complex case and you believe that you have the money and the time to deal with an attorney, a couple of grand to 10, 15, or 20 grand laying around and you want to spend it on an attorney, do so. I don't think that you really need to spend that kind of money to file a report, but do understand that it does take time to fight these cases. I've enjoyed talking with y'all this morning. I'm sorry I had to speed through it so quickly, but I know that most people don't like videos that go over 15 minutes. All right? Have a good day. Bye-bye.